Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me, please let me know in the comments. But welcome to our first official live book discussion. And I'm not going to be doing this alone. This is going to be a collab between myself and a friend of mine, which, speaking of, she's at the door right now, and I'm going to let her in. So, everyone, please give a warm welcome to.
Yay! Hello.
It's Heather. It's Horrorhead Heather, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. How are
Hi.
you?
I am wonderful. How are you, my friend?
Uh, tired.
Hanging in there?
Yeah.
We are kindred spirits tonight. I'm in the same boat as you.
We're going to try to get through this. We're going to try. And we got our first commenter of the night. It's Miss Carter.
Yay. I knew it would be Miss Carter. Hey, Miss Carter.
Hi, Miss Carter. How are you? Hey, Brandon and Heather. So, yeah, we're gonna try to keep this as professional as possible, but we can't make any promises because
No.
between us, we're gonna get crazy around here. We're gonna have fun with this, but this is just something that Heather and I were discussing. We wanted to create our own book club, basically, because we both love to read, and we've seen a lot of book clubs around. And um, Heather, have you ever been in a book club before, like a real book club in person?
No, I have not. I have dabbled, dipped my toe in some of the book clubs floating around on YouTube. Vicky from Nightmare Maven. I've read a couple of the books, but I never can catch the live streams just because timing. But I have not been in one live, so this is exciting.
Yeah, I hear you. I I'm always late to the party. Like, I try to read the books, even though we're given a month to read them, but
Mm-hmm.
the time just gets away from you, and then with work and everything, it's just hard to like keep up with it. So I end up like most of the time missing a lot of the chats. So I have to watch the replay, but I do
Yes.
eventually get around to like reading the books. But yeah, this is gonna be a fun thing because I have tried to start a book club myself when I was in middle school, but no success because no one wanted to do a book club. Even my teacher said that nobody wanted to do it, which was just heartbreaking to hear.
Oh
Yeah,
man, that's rough. It was a teacher.
yeah, it was middle school, so like getting a book club off the ground, it's hard. Like, and especially like when you're trying to do one in person, most of the time the books that are picked aren't really that interesting. So um we're deciding we're just gonna pick ones that Heather is gonna pick one a month, and I'm gonna pick one, and then every month we're gonna get on here and talk about it, just like we're gonna like a chill session.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is what we're gonna do. So the first book we're gonna be talking about this month is one that I read for the first time a few years ago, but it's a first time read for Heather.
Mm-hmm.
And that book is Michael Endy's The Neverending Story.
Yes, yours looks better than mine. My child spilled my tea on it tonight, so
Oh no.
mine mine will forever smell like chai tea and is waterlogged at the bottom.
You know what? For a book, that's actually not a bad smell.
It's not. I was like, it could have been worse.
Yeah, I thought getting a copy of this would be hard because it's an older book, and so older
Yeah.
books tend to be out of print. I got this, I think, on eBay for I think it was like $25.
Oh, okay. I got
Yeah,
mine. Mine's paperback. I got mine off Amazon. I think with tax and everything, it was under $10 when I bought it. They had a sale. It was around first of the year. They had a lot of New Year's deals going on.
gotcha. So yeah, we I've never up until like a few years ago I haven't read this book. I only grew up with the 80s movie, which by the way, uh that's going to be a little surprise. Heather has never seen. I'm pointing over here. I should be pointing over here. You're over there.
Yeah, I'm just like
I'm over here. Um, Heather has never seen the Neverending Story movie
I
from the
haven't.
80s. So somewhere down the line, and since this year is going to be the 40th anniversary of the film, we're going to be we're talking about doing a watch party so she could see it for the first time, because it's a movie that I grew up watching as a kid. I really enjoyed it. Um, I still like it. I mean, but compared to the book, like the book has a lot more detail and characters that the movie has just it cut a lot out.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie itself it's still pretty good. But we're going to be talking about this tonight. So before I talk about my thoughts on the book for a second read, what did you think of the book, Heather? Like, what were your overall thoughts of it?
So this book, first of all, I love the cover. Like the
Mm,
illustrations. That's what you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. I love
hmm
looking at the covers. And I liked the way it was laid out because all the chapters, they're in alphabetical order and they've got these cool little graphics on there. So anything that helps me get more immersed into the book, I love like that. So love the illustration. This is normally not a genre that I go to. I've never read fantasy before, low, mid, high, at all. I think the closest thing I've read is cozy fantasy, which was Legends and Lattes. So this was very intimidating at first because it's very dense, very descriptive, very small print. So, but I did enjoy it. But it's one of those that I think it's going to be different each time you read it. There's something more to pick
hmm
up on because there is so much. But I did
Yeah.
enjoy it. I'm not mad that I read it at all.
Yeah, I love fantasy. I really do. Fantasy is I want to say it's probably my second favorite genre behind horror. I
Okay.
love yeah. Um I grew up reading it. I love like I'm trying to think back to like what was the first like real fantasy books I read a lot of fantasy when I was a kid. I think the earliest would probably be the Spiderwick Chronicles.
Okay.
I
Yeah. Don't know that, but that sounds interesting.
yeah, those are they're children's books.
Mhm.
They're written by Tony DiTerlizzi and Holly Black. And basically it's like a modern fairy tale. Basically, it's about these kids who move into this old house by their ancestor, and they encounter like goblins and fairies and stuff like that. But it's all set in like the modern world.
Mhm.
It's really interesting. It's a really cool series. It's the main the main books are there's 5 books, but then they made like a sequel series, which the sequel series is like it's only 3 books, but they're a little bit longer, but not that much.
Mhm.
But yeah, so eh, sidetrack, but
Oh,
it's
totally
it's a
here.
yeah, to summarize, like fantasy is it's a genre I absolutely love because I just love like the escapement element of it. I love like
Yeah.
jump, jumping into a world that's completely different. I've tried to read like uh, fantasy books that were that have popular TV shows. Like I tried to get into the Song of Ice and Fire series, which Game of Thrones is based on.
Oh man, I will want to read those so bad because I love Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, man. But they are some chunky boys.
Oh my god, tell me about it.
So
I couldn't.
detailed.
I think I only made it like maybe 30 pages into the first one because it was so intimidating. I'm like, this is gonna be like one of those heavy books I just cannot get into, but I'm willing to try. I'm really willing to try with like the thicker fantasy books. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have not read Lord of the Rings yet. I love the movies though. I love the movies. I want to read the books though.
I don't remember the movies.
You don't remember the movies?
I remember going to see them and I think I fell asleep. It would be like a first time watch for me. I was like, I know people hold that trilogy in such a high regard that I need to rewatch it, but yeah, I don't remember them.
I wouldn't. I don't blame you. They are pretty long. I mean, and there's a lot of characters and stuff in them. But yeah, I think a revisit is really worth it because it's. But if you're gonna watch them, watch the extended versions because
That's what
that
I
is like,
do.
yeah, it's like the full story of it. But they're really worth it. But yeah, my like I said, my thoughts on the book. I really, really like this book. Um, but all my basis of information I had was the movie version.
Mm-hmm.
So going into this book, I was really surprised by just how like you said, like how detailed everything was. And Michael Ende, the author, he hated the movie version of this book because they changed so much of it,
Mm-hmm.
which as Hollywood does, they like to change like a lot of adaptations to fit like stuff that would make sense to them. So there's a lot of characters and stuff that are cut out in the movie version, but I'm gonna try to go through this. Like there's a lot of like story in this book, but we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
probably keep this pretty brief because we don't want to be here all night.
Well, I think I would enjoy the movie. From what I kind of read, the first half of the book is the movie. And that's the
Right.
part that was super simple to follow along. I was into it. And it's the second half that I was just like, oh man, we took a turn. Like
Yeah.
I had to reread chapters just because I felt like my brain was not, and maybe that might be a me problem. My brain is very literal. So me and fantasy, that's why I'm like, I don't know if we're going to mesh very well, but I'm willing to give it a try.
Yeah, my brain is just like it's hardwired completely differently. It's just
Mhm.
when I read a book, it's hard to really kind of visualize something if the author is like they tried their best to really describe something and I'm just sitting there like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with this, most of the stuff was pretty easy to follow. Like I could visualize like a lot of the creatures and stuff pretty easily, but yeah, it's just like there's a lot of hope my brain doesn't go into like its foggy territory tonight.
Well, if it does, we'll try to get you out of it. There was a lot of characters that I was writing down and they were only mentioned in like a page or two and then you never heard from them again. So that's something I had to, oh, okay, where a reread would be better for me because then I wouldn't have to really focus as much on like the characters that are barely mentioned in the first when they're going through this whole quest.
Mm-hmm. Um. Oh, I lost my train of thought again. I was going to comment on something what you just said about the characters.
Yeah, I was just started right. Like I made this card of all the major ones and tried to make notes just because it just seemed like names were so important. So I was like, I need to pay attention. And then some of them were and some of them weren't.
Yeah, which characters which characters stood out to you the most?
So I'm gonna be like my cousin Brett. I'm very country because I am from Nashville, Tennessee. I will probably pronounce these wrong, but I think my favorite character was Atreyu. I just really liked him. He was my favorite. Bastion, I don't know if it's because I'm a mom. Like, I can see how people starting out, I felt really bad for him, and my heart went out to him. And then how much his character changed and became so unlikable there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, yeah, but he's like 10 or 12.
Yeah.
So that's how kids are. I'm like, I have an 8-year-old. Like, yeah, it's fine. I can overlook that. And then crotchety old men, they crack me up. I liked Carl, the bookkeeper, the owner, those, and then the luck dragon. I like dragons. Those were probably my top 4. Falcor.
Yeah.
But Atreyu was number 1 for sure.
Yeah. That's how his name is pronounced. It's Atreyu.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember how the audiobook said it.
Let's see if I can jog my memory. There's a lot of characters I really enjoyed because there were actually story plots in this where the characters went on a quest of their own, but then they'd say that I was like, well, I want to read from I want to hear the rest of their story, but then the book abruptly says, well, that story will be told another time.
Yep.
I'm just like, damn it. I want to hear more about
this would be a good series. I think that's where my thing was. If they split it up into smaller books, that would be cool.
I agree. Because there's so many, even scenes that were really kind of immersive in the movie, the Swamps of Sadness. They, I mean, we could do a whole commentary on the movie itself, but there's a whole the scene where, oh, by the way, guys, there's going to be there might be some spoilers in this review because we want to talk about the book in detail.
Mm-hmm.
But if you guys don't care or you want to read the book and come back and watch the replay, that's perfectly fine, but it's appreciated. So, going back to the beginning, when we first meet Coriander and Bastion, the way that the bookshop is described, it's like you can practically smell the old books in that store, and I don't know, if it's do you when you first walk into a old bookstore, that smell just immediately hits you and just want to browse the shelves, and don't you just like it?
I love it. I think that's the first thing I do when I get a new book is I kind of flip it if it's paperback and it's got a good flop, and then I smell it because smells trigger memories. But it was very descriptive, especially with it being in November and raining, and just that rain with the books. It has that damp smell to it.
Yes. I'm just when that scene came on, I was just Rory Gilmore when she's just holding the books in her hands, and she's just nothing smells as good as that. And I'm just I don't know. People just some people think that people who smell books are weird, but it's just you don't get it. It's you never know this. You don't know the feeling of a good book. But yeah, when he walks in the store, and I love when books basically have like a scene or several scenes that have like books in them, and people are talking about books and how much they love them, and that's basically what this book is. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's a fantasy, but it's really a love letter to books in general and the magic that they contain. Just not to sound like you know, weird, but that's kind of how I always felt about books. I just love like it's there's like a portion and there's like a scene or like a uh there's a line in this there's a line here late earlier where he tells like or Bastion is in the attic reading the Neverending story,
Mm-hmm.
and he thinks about like, well, what happens when a book is closed? Does like the like what goes on inside of a book when the book is closed? And I'm just like, that's really kind of profound. Like, makes me really think about what does happen in a book once it's closed. Like, do the
Right.
characters just go on, or
Are they just paused and they get activated unless
yeah,
someone's reading them, or are they just doing their own thing? Yeah.
it's like they're like, yeah, it's just like they're living in their own little world. But there's a lot of like really beautiful quotes in this book about books. Just like browsing through it to see. But when we first meet Bastion, he's basically described as a chubby little boy who could spend hours and hours reading books. And the further we go into the story, the more we learn about him and his relationship with his father and his late mother, who becomes a very significant part in the like the end of the first half, basically. So, did you have any like favorite chapters that you wanted to talk about?
Well, reading this, I finally understood that meme. I had no idea with the horse sinking in the swamp that that's where this came from. So as soon as I read over that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I understand now. I feel like I am in the circle." But um, yeah, I was just trying to picture in my head, which I'm sure the movie does it when he gets the book. And at first, I was questioning whether he went into the bookshop because he was trying to get away from the bullies, or
Mhm.
if the book was calling to him, like he felt pulled in. That's kind of ambiguous, but I kind of went with the book chose him and it showed
Hmm.
up there. Um, and then he goes to the attic. But yeah, that whole how he just decided to skip school and be in the attic. I was like, that is such a child thing to do because you can't live there. You just have your lunch. You're only
Yeah.
gonna make it one day. So
Yeah.
you know. But
Tell me. I'm sorry. I'm
no,
sorry.
it's
Were you going? I was just gonna say that. Tell me that is not like living the dream where you could just completely cut school, cut all your classwork, and just go somewhere. Just go somewhere, peace and quiet. Just to sit down and read a book. Just
just
spend your
be,
whole. Just
you know,
be.
no
Just.
responsibilities, don't have to pay any bills, take your lunch, go to the attic, quiet,
Mm,
good view.
yeah.
Like he's living his best life. Um, yeah, because when he first starts reading it, they introduce all these mythical creatures, which we don't really get to see all of them later, just like the Will of the Wisp and the dragons, all of them coming together, trying to figure out what this nothing is that's taken over. So I think I've seen clips of that, of all these creatures gathered together. And the one that gets chosen is Atreyu, which is not the most powerful, is
Mhm.
not the one you would think to choose to go and find out what's going on, why the childlike empress is sick, and what's going on in Fantastica.
Yeah, she had a very. I mean, she did have a good reason for choosing him to go on this quest for her. But ultimately, not to like jump ahead, but
Hmm.
we'll get there when we get there. But there's a significant reason why how Atreyu and both Bastion are actually kind of intertwined with each other in terms
Hmm.
of like how they can help like this empress and like uncover the reason for for her sudden illness and why she's like she has basically these two have to be the ones to save Fantastica.
Hmm.
But yeah, like the first like few chapters of the book, like when Bastion he really starts reading into the world of Fantastica, it's basically just like these characters talking about going on this quest, talking about how they're living their lives, and all of a sudden this like entity called the Nothing
Hmm.
comes in and starts like destroying the land and everything that they love. And if you see like, well, you haven't seen the film yet, but like in the movie, it's like this it's basically like this storm where it's just completely like it obliterates everything in that in its path. It's like a it's a visualization of like the what the Nothing is in the movie. In the book, however, it's a little bit more ambiguous on what exactly the Nothing is. And
Hmm.
when you were reading it, what did you like? What were your thoughts on what this entity could be?
I thought it was just darkness. I don't know. They're like it's just nothing.
Mm,
So just no light, no living things, just darkness, just nothing, just this void
mm.
of nothing. I'm sure it's symbolic for something. But that I was
Oh,
yeah.
it definitely is symbolic for something. Um, it's basic. When I was when I was reading it, I was just like, it's obviously some. It is like it could be darkness, it could be like a force, but when they talk about the Nothing, it's from my understanding, it's I guess it's like the it's when people stop coming to Fantastica because Fantastica is like this entire realm where people who read fantasy and stories in general come and they can experience like this world.
Hmm.
So when they suddenly stop believing in it or stopped visiting it, that's when this entity of this empty space just completely comes in and just complete and destroys everything in its path. And it's like a it's hard to it's basically like like some kind of disease, and
Hmm.
it just like spreads all over until it completely eats everything in its path. I keep saying completely and a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Um
it didn't really describe it. It was just this shapeless, colorless, just thing. Almost like um
mm,
just an entity that you could just feel. And then when you would look, things would just be gone. There would be nothing there.
right. Yeah. It's like it's like how they said it was it's it's like being blind. I'm trying not to say basically again. That's how they described it. It's like you're looking at this thing and it's like you're blind. You can't see it, but at the same time you can.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty much like the opening chapters, and until we get to the actual quest for with Atreyu. Um, what else? What else? What else?
Yeah, it seems like they went on these tiny little quests. And I kept telling myself, okay, it's not the destination, it's a journey we're going on here. All these things are
Yeah.
significant. I was like, why don't you just go to the very end? But like Atreyu, he's going to the swamps of sadness, and then that's where he loses his horse. And then he meets Mora, the giant turtle, the ancient one, that tells him you have to find a human to name the childlike empress, and that's what will make her better. So now that he's found the turtle, now we've got to go somewhere else. And go. I was like, so it was just constantly little quests. I'm like, oh, these would make such really good smaller books, especially when you meet other creatures and characters along the way.
I would agree with that. This, like you said, this will make like a really terrific series if it was like a series of short books. There's a what else is like. I'm just like looking down at it to see if I could.
Oh no, I've got like my notes that I can read that did not get spilt.
I'm just like, can I remember anything that's worth talking about?
Well, in the Goodreads, you brought up a good point about going to the Southern Oracle with Ulala, maybe.
Yeah.
Going through the 3 gates, and there's the 2 Sphinx there. And I'm not really sure what you had to do to get through, because they're blind. They can't look at anything except for another Sphinx. But
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. I was like, he made it through. I'm not really sure what he did. If he just willed himself through, if it was his amulet that helped him.
I think it could. I think it was partially his amulet, but those sphinxes they are what they can do is they can look into your heart to see if you are if you're basically worthy enough to travel forward through the gates, to see if you're I guess if you're just worthy enough, because it shows a lot, but it shows it in the movie as well. Let me check the book again.
Yeah, that was the one that I was like, ew, I don't remember that one. I remembered the second one because it was the magic and him looking into it is when he saw Bastian reading the book, and it was kind of a meta moment of Bastian reading about himself being in the book and him questioning, like, what? How can this be?
How would you feel if you were reading a book and suddenly that thing occurred to you where you were reading a character who could see you reading about them? I mean, would that freak you out, or would you just like?
I would probably throw it and look for some holy water or something. That would freak me out. But then I would have to finish it. So I'm like, well, now I need to know how this goes. But yeah, that would be my first reaction.
I'm not gonna lie, I would probably be creeped out too when if I first read that. It's just like, oh well, this character sees Heather or Brandon sitting in a room just talking to each other or like reading a book, and then it's just like, okay, but this, I don't know where I would go after that. But we're like, I know we're just kind of like bouncing all over the place in terms of like how the context of the story is, but like, which is no surprise considering like I guess that's how our brains kind of operate. We're just like to bounce from one place to the other because we have a lot to like. We want to discuss everything at the same time, but yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about? Like any like details or thoughts that you had?
In the beginning, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, it doesn't start getting too deep until the second half when he actually enters Fantastica. It was mainly set up, meeting the characters, kind of getting the plot, what the mission is supposed to do. Oh, the werewolf.
Oh yeah.
Like the main
Go-
antagonist. Yeah, I was like, there's something else. I was like, I'm not really sure who he works for, if he's kind of in cahoots with the Nothing or like someone later on, but it's like Atreyu is going to try to find how to fix the childlike empress, and in the back there's this looming presence of a werewolf that's literally trying to stalk him too, so he's just getting it from all ends.
Mhm.
But then the werewolf is captured, so I was like, oh well, you found him.
Well, the werewolf in question is his name is Gamork,
Yeah.
and he's actually kind of tied within the Nothing. He
Okay.
is he tells Atreyu that Fantastica is basically dying, and the Empress is dying because people, like I said, people just don't find their imagination in Fantastica anymore, so that's why they stopped visiting it, and therefore that it's taking its effect on the land. And he goes into like this long spiel about like the darkness and how Atreyu basically has to get to like the boundaries of Fantastica. He has to jump into the Nothing in order to reach like the real world where Bastion lies.
Mm-hmm.
And but in order but if he does that, like he will forget who he is as his character, because he's a character in a book. So if he were to come to our world, all his memories would be just erased and he would just feel so vacant. Uh, I'm looking up the chapter right now. I know this is all set in like an ancient city, which, and also there's a lot of like really interesting locations and characters that we travel to in this book. Like even like when Atreus starts on his mission, there's like a lot of a, like a details about cities where
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, people. I might be just reading it, but I'm looking it up to see what they said about it. But there was a city that was on fire. There was a city about people who are born. They're born old and they die young.
Huh. Okay.
It's like a lot of like, like a lot of you know, basic fantasy stuff, but it's all written pretty interestingly. Uh, yeah. There's also a lot of talk about the protection, the Orin, which is the necklace that Atreyu wears. Is It's the gem from the Empress,
Mm-hmm.
and how uh, he can't. I think it's just a protection that he has on. Um, I'm sorry, I'm just like really
No,
out of it right now.
no, you're good. I think it protected him because at one point he loses it when he gets in the cave and finds Gamork. And that's where he finds the luck dragon that was stuck in the spider's web. But yeah, I think that it just protects you, not like you're invisible, but that's why he wasn't affected in the swamp of sadness, because he had the amulet on.
Right.
But he can't read the inscription because they weren't taught to read. He's of like the green skin variety, or he just couldn't read that translation that was not in his language, but Bastion could, because he's like, oh, you didn't read the back of it? That's how you can use it more, is to make wishes. I forgot what it said.
See, you're remembering more than I. You're remembering more than I am, Heather.
It's
I'm
okay.
just like I read
No,
the.
I was writing it down because I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much.
I was just
But
like,
that's the only thing is the amulet. It actually made me think of Lord of the Rings just because, like, not knowing anything about it, just this powerful thing and how much that power has, that it takes a toll on the wearer. It corrupts you pretty much. And so
yeah,
that's what made me think of Lord of the Rings was it's very powerful, but nobody should have that much power. It corrupts you and changes you, turns your heart.
that's a really interesting parallel, Heather. I never really
Mm-hmm.
thought of it that way. It's kind of like the Horcrux in Deathly Hallows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I think we're still like in the early chapters, but
Mm-hmm.
I think we got basically told everyone the gist of what the first half of the book is really about. It's Atreyu going on this quest. He encounters all these really strange and kind of memorable creatures,
Mm-hmm.
and Bastion is reading alongside him. I'm just like I keep flipping to the book like I'm actually like the answer is gonna like spring out to me.
It might. You never know.
With this particular book, it just might. I won't lie on that.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm just like trying. I don't want there to be like dead silence or anything while we're looking at this. Um,
You're
that's
good.
why I keep that's why I keep asking you if you have any like ideas or something you want to discuss while I'm just like browsing through it. Um,
Yeah, I think we're pretty good plot wise. Him going into the store, finding the book, stealing it, running, going to the attic, and then reading about this world.
um, okay, we're just passing Yggdrasil, the Mini, the Nomics. I think the Noviks are like those Noviks were those elf creatures that Atreyu encountered that helped like bring him
Yeah.
back to health. Like after I think it was after he met Falcor,
Mm-hmm.
if
He
I'm not
lost.
mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, he had the spider bite him. Hello.
Hi Marty.
Hey, Marty. Yeah, that was the Gamort died, even though he
Mm.
was gnawing on Atreyu's leg, and Falcor was stuck in the spider's web. Well, he was a shapeshifter, but he kind of chose to be a spider. And to get out of it, he's like, well, I can bite you, but don't tell anybody this secret because if you wish and you think of a place you want to be, you'll go there and then you won't die from this poison. So they end up getting out. And then, yeah, the husband and wife little people,
Mm-hmm.
they were cute together,
Yeah.
like nursed him back to health.
Let's talk about like the voice of silence chapter for a second because this one was really frankly elegantly written because
Yeah.
it was after Atreyu, this is after he passes through the magic mirror gate where he sees Bastion reading the Neverending story. It's like the main goal where he has to pass through the gates. It's a part of his quest. Um, he I think this is the point where what was her name?
That the oracle at the three gates,
No,
Ulala. That was
Yulala. Yulala, that's what it is.
Ulala.
Thank you. So
She was the
Yulala,
fourth three. Yeah.
yeah. So Yulala is a bodiless voice, basically, who has to sing everything to Atreyu,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like he's in this chamber of like pillars, and he could hear the voice all around him, and it's just like singing. And it's like high and and just like really, really elegant. And he can't talk to her. He has to like speak in rhymes to
Yes.
communicate with her. And I think this is the point where Atreyu or Eulala tells him that this is the Empress needs a new name in order to like someone has to give her a new name basically. Uh, and
Right.
let's check the
But no one from Fantastica. It has to be specifically a human. A human has to come.
right. To answer Marty's saying, he says,
Um,
guys, I found sometimes with adaptations of novels, they sometimes use elements left out in the movie sequels. As being someone who hasn't read Neverending Stories, uh, books were elements carried over um, to the movies.
have you seen the sequels?
I have seen the second one,
Mm-hmm.
and mm, it's not really that good.
It doesn't
uh,
do the second half of the book.
it
Does it do its own thing?
it it's I guess it's kind of like its own thing. It's a very very loose uh telling of the second half of the book, but like the first half um they cut out a lot of characters and they make the female antagonist like I don't really want to call her like the main antagonist, Zaida.
Mm-hmm.
She's the witch in the second half of the book, or the sorceress, I should say.
Yes.
To make her like the main antagonist when she was an antagonist in the second half of the book, but I don't know, she really kind of felt minor in like the grand scheme of things. She was kind of just there to persuade Bastion to uh manipulate she was there to manipulate him against his friendship against Atreyu and Falcor
Mm-hmm.
because they felt like he was becoming a bit of an ass basically,
Yeah.
which he was. There is oh god, there is a third Neverending Story, but that one has nothing to do with the books. That's just kind of its own thing.
I watched
And
the
from
trailer.
oh my god,
It's like Jet
it's
Black's in this. Jack Black's in this.
I,
He's a
I
bully. Still in this book.
I think that was his first movie, if I'm not
Was
mistaken.
it?
I think it could be, but that was like the only interesting about it. It was just it's so bad,
Oh
and
no.
it's so bad. It's not even worth your time. It has the kid from Free Willy in it, like the
Yeah,
little
I
the
saw
main.
that. I was like, look at here. They got two people I know from the 90s. Okay.
It's very very 90s. I will give it that. But the movie itself is oh my battery's gonna die soon, and I don't have a plug. Uh, I might have to do this on my phone before it dies.
Okay.
I'll just keep going. Uh, yeah. Let's see, Jack Black's first rate.
Okay. It
All
was.
right, roll.
It
He
was
says roll.
okay.
I can't read without my glasses. So, um, oh wait, he's also these goats. But also, Heather, what's your channel called?
I don't have one. I
She
just I'm just on YouTube so I could log in and watch people's videos.
yeah, she did. She has she has a channel, but it doesn't have any videos on
I'm
it. But
I am so technologically inept. I would not even know how to run one.
oh man, I'm trying to run my own right now, and I'm trying to like get this thing up, but I'm just so shaken with nerves. I don't even know what I'm talking about half the
Yeah,
time.
I was gonna say I'm too much of a chicken to do it. So.
He says okay. Um. So yeah, we were talking about Yulalala.
Yeah.
Uh, that's what the bodiless voice was, and she's just like this voice that sings to you, that betray you, and it's just like a really beautiful chapter, just in all
Hmm.
honesty.
Yeah, that was the part of the audiobook that was so cool because you could hear the wind and it was just very poetic, very singing. It was nice how they had the different voices in there being her.
It was vocally pleasant,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, after that we just go back to a trio in Falcor, and they go through they find the wind giants, which, I mean, of course they have names, but like I'm not gonna look through those.
Yeah, there's 4 of them, north, south, east, west. They're just out there flying around doing their thing.
I'm a fucking Luddite, and I can run a channel. Boss, you should go for it, Heather. Novel reviews, movie reviews, video game reviews, whatever. There is always an audience for it.
Yeah.
There you go, Heather.
Yeah. I would have to do it all on my phone, so it would be very just like right now. I have no software to do editing or anything like that. So
Um, yeah, my battery's gonna die pretty soon. So maybe I should just. I mean, I still want to do this, but maybe we should just. I'll try to switch over to my phone if that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, whatever you need.
I mean, I don't know. Like, do I just stop the stream here, or do I just come back, or should we
It's up
just
to
like?
you. It's
I
up to
mean,
you.
yeah, I could
I
do
don't,
like a.
I don't know
I'll
how
do.
hard you just switch. I was gonna say we're what 50, almost 53 minutes in.
Yeah, we only talked.
It's a big dense
It's a.
book.
It's a. It's
So
a. It's almost 400 pages, guys, but we haven't even cracked like the second half of the book yet. So this might be like a split stream. So I'm
mhm.
probably just gonna leave and then get on my phone, and I'll send you the link so we could come back and continue this discussion. All right, so I will see you in a minute, guys. If you're watching, uh, don't worry. The video will be popping up on my channel, so if you want to go and watch that, it's my channel, Brandon the Beldam. Um, yeah. So, Heather, I will see you soon in a minute. So.
Okay.